Hello, welcome back to our cricket podcast with myself, Dan, and of course, professional cricketer who is currently with the Oval Invincibles in the 100, Joe Gardner. Joe, how are you? How's life? How's cricket? Where are you in the world, actually?
Yes, I'm keeping very well, thanks. I mean, you can't complain when playing in this tournament in the country. It's all a bit go, 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 but we've had quite a. I guess we've had one of the more relaxed starts to the tournament, shall we say. There's been one round of games. We're top of the table, so I think we'll stop the count now. Um, Now, we had a really good win on Tuesday, was it, against Birmingham Phoenix? Net run rate's like 2.25, so yeah, nice convincing win to start the comp. And then I'm currently in Cardiff. I've got the view of the Principality Stadium where the rugby players play out of my hotel window, and we play against the Welsh Fire tomorrow at Fire Gardens. So they won their first game as well, so hopefully should be a good little encounter.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. If people are, I don't even know when this will go out, but make sure if you do want to go and watch Joe play cricket, go and get some Oval Invincibles tickets and go and see Joe and go and say hello to Joe because Joe will say hello back, won't you?
Yes, absolutely. I did meet some fans actually. They were kind of sat near the changing room at the Oval, and then when I was like skipping down the steps, they were like, "Joe, Joe, Joe, love the podcast." Rah, rah, rah. I was like, "Oh, so cute." Had some photos with them.
That's so good.
But yeah, it's so good to hear, so good to see. Engaging with the fans, like always, always make sure that like I go and do that for at least like 15, 20 minutes after the game. So yeah, if anyone does come down to Cardiff or is in London anytime next week at any of the games, then yeah, come and say hello.
That was really handy because I didn't even know you were going to say that. I didn't even know you had that story that people had come and said hello to you at the Oval. So what a happy accident that was to bring that up.
Yeah, so good. So good. Always promoting the pod wherever we go. There was actually saying that the first Sunrisers game of the year, which was here at Cardiff, there was a lad and a bloke and his little lad, and they were Welsh, and they'd come to the Sunrisers game, and obviously there's not you don't really get that many fans that come to the regional games. Really, it's a bit like the men's Metrobank One Day Cup. Like no one really turns up, especially when the hundred's on. So yeah, there wasn't really that many people there, but he like I could just the little boy's face, like he was just absolutely lit up, couldn't believe it. It was like, can I have a photo? Can I have your autograph? Like it was so cute. So yeah, always willing to meet people, have a chat, whatever, have a photo. So yeah.
Love it. Putting in God's, do they call it God's work? I think so. I want to say hard yards, but I think that's just because I'm reading what's on your t-shirt. So we're not going to talk about that. Let's talk a little bit about the Test series, is what's going on at the moment, and then we'll talk a bit more about the 100. And what better opportunity to have a chat about the 100 with somebody that is actually in the 100 and has been in the 100 since its inception as well. So I don't think we have to go too deep about it, Joe, but it's always just nice, isn't it? Just to kind of throw some questions around and get some thoughts and feelings and share some opinions and stuff like that. But the Test series, England have won it. They're 2-0 up. There's one Test currently being played up at Edgbaston at the moment. And I mean, I think both teams have kind of forgotten how to bat really across the course of that day one so far. West Indies all out for 282. England 38 for 3 with Mark Wood, the night watchman, dying last night as well with the bat. I'll be honest, I haven't watched as much of the series or as the Test series as what I'd hoped to. I was really hopeful to go to the Lord's Test match, day 3 of the Lord's Test match, which would have been day 4 in the end. Really hopeful to go, tick the box to go up with the media pass because I wanted to create some content for myself and the channels about going to Jimmy's last Test, etc. And that was all part of the plan until I got a pretty unhelpful message through from somebody at the ECB, kind of basically telling me that I could film absolutely nothing inside of the walls of Lords, and got told that if I wanted to film anything, I could stand by a bus shelter or a bin or something like that on the streets of North London, which I thought was a bit harsh. And then obviously when the test match goes on, you start seeing other accounts that don't have media rights kind of posting video clips up of talking into cameras and stuff during the game. It's pretty disappointing. But so I haven't really got to watch much of it, which is a shame because Test cricket's good, but I don't know. It doesn't feel like the biggest Test cricket of summer, does it, for England? The West Indies and Sri Lanka, 6 Test matches. Jimmy's now finished. I don't know. Have you watched much of it?
Yeah, there's a bit. It's a tinged with a bit of sadness, isn't it? Like, obviously, really unhelpful that you couldn't get into that Lord's test. Like, especially when there are sort of comparable creators and stuff in the space that were able to do that and doesn't seem to have had any kind of consequence or backlash that, for instance, you might have faced had you gone and done that. So that seems a bit unfair. I think I'll start with saying that. No, I probably haven't watched as much of it. I've managed to watch quite a few of the highlights and clips and stuff and what have you. I was quite tuned in last week actually when Ben Duckett was going off on a mad one because he thought he was going to miss the birth of his first child.
Yeah.
That was quite entertaining. When he hit those, fastest 50, wasn't it, by an English opener, I think. So that was quite fun to watch. But other than that, I haven't watched a great deal other than the clips and stuff. But West Indies and Sri Lanka on paper, it's probably not going to excite people as much as obviously the Ashes last year is the pinnacle of Test match cricket for English fans, you would say, and then we had the India series as well. So trying to follow Australia and then India was always probably going to be quite tough. But it's good to have seen like Gus Atkinson sort of thrive in the way that he has done. Obviously, that impact that he had in the first Test at Lords, we already spoke about that, and obviously he's bowling with real good pace, which is something that should excite England fans, but not quite as quick as that over we saw from Mark Wood at Trent Bridge last week. Whoa!
Yeah, the boy bowls rockets, doesn't he? It was it Cavem Hodge, wasn't it? At the end of the day, he'd kind of joked with Mark Wood and kind of said that actually I've got wife and kids at home. Could you mind just calming it down a little bit? But there's actually quite a nice segue to kind of lead on to the next thing that I was wanting to talk about, and particularly Mark Wood. That it feels like during this series with like the ECB anyway, or with England's this Test squad, and I don't necessarily think any of it's wrong, but sometimes I do wonder if they are just kind of pushing what they can actually get away with saying before somebody turns around and goes, no, actually, I just think you're being a bit cheeky here. But Mark Wood, and I think Stokes, was saying about Mark Wood will bowl 100 mph at some point. That's the first thing. And the other thing that I saw was Ollie Pope saying that on one day England will probably just go and score 600 on a Test match day. Surely we've got to a point now that we probably know that Mark Woods isn't going to bowl 100 mph. I would have thought each kind of decimal increase of miles per hour, once you're bowling 97 mph anyway, becomes incredibly hard, let alone to find 3.1 mile an hour to break that 100 mph mark. And also, 600 runs in a day, Ollie? Really? Like 600? Like on what pitch against what bowling attack are you going to go out and score 600 in a day? What is that? Let me just try and work out what the 90 overs in a day. They'd need to go, well, to be fair, now I've said that out loud, they would only need to go at 6.66 runs per over for the entire day, assuming obviously the other team were okay with getting round quickly and putting the 90 overs in. But you're not scoring 600 in a day, are you? Come on.
I think you'd need a bit of luck to be on your side throughout the course of that day. I could see them going comfortably at 6.5 and over. I could genuinely see that, but I don't know if they would get there without getting all out or whatever. Yeah. Like, I think it would need someone to obviously score like an unbeaten
600 and none down
double or triple century, which, I mean, I feel like someone of Harry Brooks' repertoire, like, he could do something stupid like that. But yeah, when you think about conditions, pitch, opposition, who is that going to be? That's the unrealistic part. And also the 100 mile an hour. Now, that could actually happen
Do you think?
because.
Okay, right. I'm listening. I'm right. I'm sitting down. I'm belted in. I've got the harnesses
Because
on. I'm ready for
come
you, Joe.
on,
Go on.
right?
Hit me.
You and I know both
I don't
that
know much
when the
about bowling fast.
speedometer comes up
Yeah.
on the screen on your TVs at home, how do you know that that is actually 97 mile an hour?
Oh, so you're saying
Like
that
the
someone
ball
will just
that's been
lie?
delivered. He could just pay off the cameraman or whoever it is that's working on the graphics to be like, do you know what, Steve in the back room, out in the lorry, for the third ball of my sixth over or third ball of my second over, just put like 100 mile an hour, and then we can just say that I've bowled at 100 mile an hour. Do you know what I mean? Like, where's what was it that you used to do in like research skills when you were at school or like uni, like retest reliability, something like that, about what's actually happened, and then the thing that measures it, the accuracy of the measuring tool. That's what I'm trying to get.
Yeah, I'm picking up what you're putting down. I am. I mean, it looks like I'm just doing a bit of research. There's 3 blokes that have gone past 100 mile an hour in their career. One's Brett Lee, 100.1, Sean Tate, 100.1, and Shoaib Akhtar, 100.2 mile an hour. I don't want to discredit them, but I do. I think they could be right. Jeff Thompson was up there with like 99.8 mile an hour, and I mean that could be incredibly right as well. And I'm sure it'd be quick. But how particularly when Jeff Thompson was kicking about, how accurate were those speed guns?
That's what we need to decipher.
The one that kind of confuses me the most is the longest ever, or the biggest 6 ever hit in cricket. That's the one that gets me a little bit, because you go from Chris Gale, who hits a big ball, Shahid Afridi's in there, MS Dhoni, Yuvraj Singh, and you go up to Brett Lee, who's hit 130 metre 6 apparently against England in
Brett
2005.
Lee has
apparently. But the largest ever, and you go up in increments, like Gale's 116, Afridi 118, Dhoni 118, Yuvraj 119, Mark Kaur 120, Corey Hansen 122, 122, 127, 130. So you go up in like 1s and 2s and 3s and so on and so forth until you get to the top one. In 2013, when Shahid Afridi hit 153 metre 6 against South Africa in 2013. Now that might have been, I don't know, but it might have been up in like Joburg, where it's kind of high altitude and the ball flies higher and all this other good stuff that goes towards it. But where'd you just find another 23 metres from, Shahid? Where's that come from? I don't believe it. I'm not having it. I'm not buying it.
I'm not buying it either. I might have to go and re-watch these clips, try and judge for myself. The easiest thing to do would surely be just like, right, get all these blokes, or get a sample of cricketers that hit a long ball, and take them to like a testing day, and just get them to hit, I don't know, 50 balls on like, whether it's half volleys or low full tosses, whatever, and measure how far they actually hit it. Like, a bit, what I'm thinking in my head is, you know, the NFL, like what's it called? The combine. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Have that. That's the way that T20 cricket's going, isn't it? Like, these blokes are just purely making a career out of franchise cricket. Let's have a T20 combine to see who the most powerful T20 players are. Across batters, bowlers, all-rounders, do a bit of both. That's a great idea. How have I just thought of that?
No, I think that's brilliant. It would require, and this doesn't happen very often in cricket, but it would require some kind of joined up thinking between boards and people that hold control over things and make sure that everybody can play with one another's toys and things like that, which ultimately isn't going to happen. But in terms of kind of gimmicky stuff, I feel like if you put maybe some inflatable meerkats in there and like some people that might be trying to eat yogurts through a helmet or something like that, I think the 100 could be right up for a bit of content like that, and I think that could work really nicely. Did I tell you that I striped a 6 into the sight screen at Wantage Road at the weekend? Did I tell you that?
You might have dropped it into conversation, yeah.
It's a big one. It was a big one. I've been on Google Maps afterwards.
And
I reckon
you've
it was.
been on the measuring tools.
Yeah, I have. Yeah, I reckon it was about 96 meters.
Was it?
Yeah, yeah.
Come
It was a
on.
decent strike. It was a decent strike.
Who was bowling?
That would have been. I think his first name is George. I think it's George Hendy.
George Hendy. Yeah. Come on. Player of the match in the Premiership
Yeah.
final for Saints.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's great work.
It was
I
nice.
love
It was
that
nice.
for you. You
was
hit
nice.
a couple, didn't you?
I did. I hit one over towards the dugouts, and then one just kind of
Nice.
let the bottom hand do a bit more work and just kind of just hit the top left hand corner of the sight screen at wantage. Protected the members. I thought it'd be unkind, wouldn't it, to put one in the top tier? So just doing my bit. It was good fun, actually. It was like to be able to. I know you obviously get to do it most days of the week, but for a non-proper cricketer to walk out at like an actual cricket ground with actual people in the seats, and to kind of see the buildings around it as well, and to walk out onto a proper pitch, it definitely was a bit of a pinch me moment. Actually, to be fair, you've probably not played at Wantage Road as much as what you'd like, but it really was a genuinely special occasion to get the opportunity to do that. And I don't know, you wouldn't want to just give opportunities like that away constantly, but wouldn't it be nice if cricket kind of opened its doors a little bit and kind of gave people opportunities to go and experience some of these things a bit more often?
Yeah, and I think that ties into what you said a few months ago about when you had the content creators cup or whatever it
Yeah.
was, and like if there was a time and a space where you could get that on a first class ground, how much more of a event and how much more marketable that would become for one, the cricket club, and and also the hype that the creators can build around having something like that, because like you say, it is quite unique, it's quite exciting. You don't get to do it very often. If that's the one time a year that you build yourself up as someone who creates cricket content, and you're like, oh, like mark the diaries for the 29th of August because we're going to get to go out and play the Content Cup at Derbyshire or wherever it might be, for example. Like that would be something that I feel like that you could definitely get around that. Like that would be really cool to have something like that. And like you say, I'm glad you enjoyed it and like got to experience what it's like. And yeah, I haven't played there as much as I would have liked for sure. I like less than 10 times, say, for instance, and only probably 5 professional games. Like we were quite lucky in that when I was playing for Northants women, like in my first stint, as I come out of the age group and stuff, we did actually get to play there like once a year, and in the same space that I've just described. Like that was our one game a year that we had there, and it was like such a big thing that we all built up to, because we were like, we never get to play on first class grounds, like this is so cool, like really try to make a thing of it. And I know that like the girls and stuff really, really enjoyed it. I know it's become a bit more normalised now in the women's game, but you've got to try and I guess really incentivise and push those things, because that's what's really cool for all cricket fans, right?
100%. I think anything that can be done to kind of help grow a sport, which is, I think probably if you plopped it in a swimming pool, it would be one of those kids that needed like some floats on its arms that probably can't swim right now, and it's kind of just got its nose up above the water, and it's just trying, particularly in the UK anyway, to kind of survive. And maybe one day, hopefully anyway, with kind of a lot of people doing a lot of good things, it can kind of help cricket get to a point where it doesn't need armbands anymore, and it can just do a nice little swim down the pool instead, and just enjoy itself. Maybe it won't ever go as fast as football in the fast lane, but maybe the lane over, a nice little recreational lane with rugby and golf, and can just have a nice little time in the local swimming pool, swimming up and down. What a nice analogy that was. Talk to me about the 100. Joe, you're in there right now. Can you make any attempt to quantify, particularly for for yourself as a professional female cricketer in the UK, how big of a difference it is to go from the Sunrisers in the Charlotte Edwards Cup, Rachel Hayhoe Flint, to the 100?
Yeah, it is quite a stark difference, to be fair. And I don't want to put, like, that's not giving Sunrisers a bad rap whatsoever. It's just, I feel like there's been so much support and drive from the ECB in ensuring that the 100, and particularly for the, like, women, is as close to what it's like for the men as possible in terms of, like, having each other on the same platform and, like, trying to champion equality and all stuff like that. And yeah, like, obviously, like, the buses are the same for both men and women. Less said about my journey yesterday down to Cardiff, the better. But
yeah, but you've got buses to start with.
yeah, exactly. And we don't, like, so for those that don't really know, like, we don't always get a coach to away games for the Sunrisers because we are also spread out around the region, and, like, that's not always the easiest mode of travel because there's, like, different pickup points and budget and all things like that. So yeah, like, we have a coach that takes us pretty much everywhere, like every training session there and back. You don't have to get the coach all the time if it's within walking distance. So for instance, when we're at the Oval or whatever, we are allowed to walk from the hotel to the ground because it's not too far and stuff. But that's there for us. Obviously, getting to train, all our training sessions are at these big grounds where we play, which is, yeah, unbelievable. The pitches and yeah, I guess the facilities and stuff that we're able to use is really, really good. The crowds, like, I think we had 11,000 in for our game on Tuesday, and I think that kind of attendance was taken maybe halfway through our game. So the men's game's still probably a good 2 hours away from starting. So you're thinking you have got, like, genuine women's cricket fans in there, and, like, that's incredible. I remember in the first year, and obviously it was like records were being broken almost every day in terms of attendances of crowds and stuff, and I remember that being sort of 12, 13, 14,000, like, and then as the competition grew, obviously the crowds got bigger and stuff at the finals and whatever, but to have 11,000 for the first game of this year kind of shows the journey that, one, this tournament, and two, the women's game has been on and is kind of cementing in the British public, I guess you would say. And yeah, it's really good to see. And as players, we're so privileged, we're so lucky that we get to play a part in this tournament. I know the internationals really, really enjoy it as well. Obviously, we've got Marizanne Kapp at the Oval Invincibles, who's in her 4th year as an Oval Invincible. And yeah, I know it's something that she absolutely loves, and it's just a fantastic tournament.
That was going to be one of my next questions, actually, about you've obviously been part of the tournament since day one, or since season one, whatever it was called, through to the 4th season of where it is now. Has it changed at all? Has it improved? Have the organisers looked at what happened in year one and then kind of made amendments to what you see now? Or because I think from my perspective anyway, I don't think it doesn't feel like a great deal has changed from year one to year 4. Not that I think much had to change between year 1 and year 4, but I just wondered, like, from somebody in there behind the scenes, has there been much of a change? Like, do you get more of something or less of something, or anything that you might have kind of noticed?
I think one thing I would say is that it like, behind the scenes stuff just runs a bit smoother than it probably did in those first couple of years, as people were finding their feet in terms of, like, just like timings and the way things, like, I guess it's with anything new, you're still kind of working out what pieces fit where and all stuff like that. It definitely seems a lot more, I'm not going to say relaxed, because it's not relaxed, but people know what they're getting themselves into, and just, yeah, like the stuff behind the scenes organisationally seems to run a lot smoother, is what I would say. And there's probably a lot more trust in the players from a player's point of view, and the training side of things. I would say we give it that the onus is a lot more on us and what us as cricketers need.
Okay.
We're trusted to get that. It's not prescriptive, and the coaches are very like trusting in that, and are like, let us know what you need to get done and we'll facilitate that accordingly. Whereas I'd say maybe in the first couple of years it was very much like, we're doing this, rah, rah, rah. But as more cricket has been played, certainly on a domestic scale, it doesn't matter too much for the internationals. I feel like they sort of run off their own schedule in terms of they've been around the block for a long time. They know what they need. They're a bit more dictated to by their international cricket boards. Yeah. Whereas for us as domestic players, obviously, we're playing as much cricket professionally in a summer now than we ever have done. So we all know our game's a lot better. We know what we need on a match day -1, whether that's I'm hitting against throws rather than actually facing bowlers, because that's what makes me feel most confident going into a game day. Or I'm not bowling at batters. I'd rather bowl on a bowl through with a coach. Yeah. Some really specific fielding stuff, getting the ground dimension. So, for instance, at Cardiff this afternoon, it's obviously really big square. You're getting used to what the stands look like in the background, like really specific things like that when you're fielding or whatever. Yeah, but I think from, as you said, I wouldn't say that it's changed a great deal in terms of probably what the viewer sees from year 1 to year 4, other than the crowds and spectacle and engagement probably just being a lot slicker and bigger and better. Is probably what I'd say.
Yeah. I think yes. I don't, and it is a one-off, and I haven't really watched much of it, but I did think that the crowd at Old Trafford was pretty down actually for the originals versus, who did they play? Fire game. Thought it was pretty low. Whether there was a bit of weather involved there or not, I don't know. Whether, I don't know, that original male squad doesn't look particularly great. It looks like they've got a bunch of number 7s walking out at number 3, so maybe that had part of it. But you've played a lot of T20 cricket this year as well, and in the past within that Charlotte Edwards Cup. Logistically, when you're actually playing, is there much spoken about with regards to the difference between 100 balls and a T20? I know there's obviously a lot of kind of thought and comment about whether it should have been the T20 format, or whether this 100 ball thing is any good. But is there anything different to think about, other than the obvious of just going, well, I've got 20 less balls to score any runs?
Yeah, that sort of speaks for itself. You've got to try and get yourself going from ball 1 when you're batting, haven't you? I guess from the tactical side of it, the back-to-back sets, so bowling 10 balls in a row, I feel like that's a tactic that we've actually seen a little bit already of in the competition. Like if someone's bowled 5 really decent balls and batter's still on strike and struggling to get them away, I think tactically that can have quite a big like momentum or impetus on the way that the innings goes. And likewise with the bat, if you have a good set where someone like Paige Schofield, for instance, first time opening the batting the other day, gets 71 off 40 rocks, I think it was, in one set, hit Sophie Devine for 4 fours, the field changed about 3 times, like brilliant, so good to see. I think it's more of the tactical side of it when you're out in the field, and definitely the time pressure in ensuring that you're getting round quicker, and obviously changing ends after every 10 balls. I think you've got like 50 seconds to do that. I know when I'm running from deep square leg to deep fine leg, wherever it is, I'm always looking at the clock thinking, right, I've got 10 seconds to make sure I'm eyes are on the bowler, eyes are on the captain, whatever. I'm where I need to be for this to start, so that we don't get behind the rate and end up having to lose a fielder at the back end or whatever it is for example. So I'd say like the time pressure element's probably reinforced, and the tactical side of it in, yeah, definitely more so in I feel it more when you're out in the field, from like the way that the sets can swing between bat
Yeah.
and ball and whatever, and obviously you can utilize timeout if you're feeling a little bit under the pump as well. So I think those kind of quirky rules are what sets it slightly apart from like your standard T20, and so it just keeps it interesting, I would say.
And do you think this is a tough question to ask? And one of the big ones that people talk about is like whether it was ever needed in the first place. Could it have been? Could it have been kind of? Could the blast have been polished up a little bit? And could the? Well, I don't know whether we can really kind of talk about it, but with regards to how the double headers came about and things like that, could that have been polished up and adopted in that competition and developed and thrived in the same way as which the 100 does now? It's just it's awkward, isn't it? But in terms of like yourself and your career, how much does it mean to you to be part of this competition? I know this is your franchise competition. You've not played, apart from kind of winters overseas playing in Australia, you've not played overseas franchise cricket yet, but I think with the way that the women's game is growing, those leagues should start kind of sprouting up quite quickly, I think, in various different places in the world soon. But does it mean as much to you as what it did 4 years ago? Is it still kind of, I don't know, it might not be, but is it like the highlight of your summer? Is it the thing you look forward to the most? I'm just curious, really.
Yeah, a few things in there. I think if you'd have
Bit
seen
of
me,
unpacking to do, isn't
if
there?
you'd have seen me in the week leading up to the 100 draft, you would definitely know how much I care about it, because I was
Yeah.
absolutely shitting myself, and I'm not going to hold back from saying that. I felt, that like I was very, very nervous about, well, one, I guess just wanting to be involved in the tournament again because of how much I'd enjoyed the last kind of 3 years being involved in the tournament, and then the idea that not being there probably would have hit hard quite home. I'm sure I would have been absolutely fine and I would have definitely got over it, but that would have been something for me to process. So yeah, no, I absolutely do care about it, and it is like you say, you like earmark these kind of 4 weeks in the cricketing calendar, and you know that you're going to have a good time on the pitch in a new environment, with a few of your teammates that you have from your regional team, but also playing against the people that you play against week in, week out from a regional perspective, and learning, seeing how they go about their business, playing with the internationals, being around the internationals is priceless, really. I think just seeing the way that they go about their business, their skills and stuff, it's really impressive. And like, what I find is that like being in an environment where the standard is so high, naturally your level kind of raises anyway. Otherwise you're just going to be a bit of a outlier, is probably what I
Yeah,
would
you're
say.
not getting a second, third, and fourth year contract, are you? Basically, if you don't pick up.
Yeah, exactly. So that's like, and as someone that really embraces like challenge and trying to get the best out of myself, I know that, I know how important this kind of 4 weeks has felt over the course of the past 3-4 years, whatever it is, and how much I've enjoyed it. In terms of being like, obviously I absolutely love playing for the Sunrisers, and it's been amazing in the past 12 to 18 months that we've had more on-field success, and as a group we are really, really tight, which is, like, we're in a really good place as Sunrisers, I feel. Obviously there's a bit of disruption with the change in structure to the tier 1 stuff, that we've briefly touched upon, but like, as Sunrisers we feel in a really good place. We're a really strong knit squad, and I guess for those of us that have been picked up in this tournament, it's just a massive bonus and an opportunity for us to challenge ourselves in these better environments, learn as many skills as we can, go back to sunrises at the end of August and September in the last 4 Rachel Hale Flint games, and showcase what we've picked up in the last month or so. I think one thing I have noticed, like, obviously it's been 9 days, I think, since kind of being in the Invincibles camp, is that compared to how I felt, definitely last year was slightly different in that I was just coming back from that hand injury, so I was very much just excited to get back out on the pitch and just really enjoy playing cricket again, because I'd had 6-7 weeks off. And then the previous 2 years, I don't know, I just felt like I was quite like nervous and not very confident in the environment, is probably what I would say. Whereas now I feel like a bit more senior. I think it's just a matter of the fact that I'm old. And I probably feel a little bit more comfortable in the environment than perhaps I have done in previous years, which, I don't know, is probably a bit of reflection on the kind of mental skills work that I've done in terms of just being a bit like happier within myself and going out there and just trying to back myself as much as possible. But yeah, I don't know, probably not putting as much pressure on myself and not overhyping it as I have done in previous years, despite knowing that when you're out there on the pitch and you've got the biggest crowds that you're going to play in front of all summer, not to put too much pressure on yourself and still very much just enjoy it, because it is a really fun and enjoyable competition. I hope that covered off all those random points.
Yeah. It's a great answer. I think honestly, probably the most important thing is the fact that you feel like a better cricketer because of it. And I think you kind of covered that off with the fact that the people that you rub shoulders with and the access to facilities and coaches and opportunities and things like that. And I think that is massively important. And I don't think I'll shy away from saying it. I think that the strides that the 100 has made in the women's game in the UK is enormous. And I do think it was massively needed, or something very similar was needed anyway. I don't think it was ever needed for the men's side of things, but that's just my opinion as a fan. Clearly I'm not involved in it, and I'm sure there's a lot of blokes out there that have got their contracts and they're probably quite happy and they do think the 100 was needed, and it's a big payday for them and good for them. But that's just my thoughts. But yeah, I've run out of questions for you. I'm not going to grill you about the 100 anymore. You can stop sweating now.
No, I think one thing I would say is I probably do agree with you in the fact that it probably wasn't necessarily needed in the men's game, but I remembered your point of, did you think that they could have just kind of hyped up the T20 comp for the women's game? I think it becomes quite tricky because you think back to 4 years ago, there probably wasn't the depth and the talent pool in the women's game that there was now. So it always comes back to trying to have, if you were going to have 18 women's teams, realistically the product probably wouldn't have been that great. So that's when you get into the conversation of, okay, well, it needs to be condensed, but what happens to those other 10 counties, say if you go for an 18 tournament as the 100 currently is? And I think that's where it gets tricky. But one thing I will say is that the success that the women's competition has had probably couldn't have been possible if there wasn't a men's competition, despite the men's competition probably not. But yeah, like the men's competition doesn't feel that different from the T20 Blast, really. And yeah, I guess from a sort of selfish and female point of view, without COVID happening and whatever, then the double headers weren't really planned back in the 100 early days, and it was only really because of that they then had to have double headers at all the grounds, and then that turned out to be a stroke of luck in terms of it being really successful and just being a real springboard for the women's game. But it is tough because I think without there being a men's competition, the women's competition wouldn't have the kind of piggyback it needed to be as successful as it could be. But So thank you to the men's game for providing us with the platform to grow the women's game.
It's a really good point. It's a really good point, and I think circling back again is the fact that when you said there was 11,000 in the Oval, 2.5 hours before the men's game kicks off. These 4 years or these 3 seasons preceding this one have made huge strides in generating an audience that are genuinely interested and fanatical and passionate about women's game, the women's cricketers, the style of play, the teams, the characters, the personalities, everything like that. So yes, I agree. Like that initial piggyback, I think has helped, that kind of initial kind of kick down the road. But I think there's so many great ambassadors now in the women's game that are doing so much running, whether that's kind of on field, whether it's off field accessibility. There's so much more going on to just showcase how popular women's cricket, specifically in the UK, actually is right now. And yeah, to be a part of it, it must be really, really cool. So, hey, look, unless you've got anything else you want to talk about today, good luck for tomorrow, which has probably happened by the time this goes out. And then good luck for the rest of the tournament as well. I'm sure we'll catch up beforehand. I don't really know what plans we have with regards to talking about stuff, but we'll definitely figure it out. I mean, we'll see if we can do one in another city. Why not? The Wi-Fi in Wales has been great.
I know it's been better than London, to be fair. So I'm glad we did plan it for this morning. Go well for Eastergate this afternoon.
Thanks very
much.
Hope
that you maintain your top of the table status, and I hope that we do at the Oval Invincibles as well. Hopefully we'll also get a little guest on at some point during the tournament.
That'd be good. Tee it up, Joe.
I will.